Welcome to Energising Life with AKR Fitness. I'm your host, Jase, and as always, I'm joined at the breakfast bar by Lynsey.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hello.
Bonjour. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
How are you doing, Lynsey?
Fighting fit.
Fighting fit, good stuff. We're settling into this, we're getting into it, we're getting a bit more comfortable, right? It's good. So we've done 4 episodes. So if you've stuck with us through the first 3, you've maybe noticed a little pattern in that each episode is an extension of the one before. And the last episode we spoke about how fitness is this infinite game and that you can't win fitness. It's always there, it's forever, and it's for everyone. And also that the journey is the goal. So today we're going to go through a few tips, tricks, strategies, some tools that will help our listeners sort of stay on track for the long haul. So first, we just want to introduce a few things that you should expect to come up in your journey. Things that are normal that you may think aren't. So let's start things off with normal things, normal parts of life that throw people off track. Mike, Lynsey, the mics are open.
Sorry?
The microphones are open.
The mics are open. I think the thing, like we spoke about in the last episode about stop-start cycles and people going for perfection all the time, part of that is the expectation or let's stick with expectation because I can't think of another word, but people think, or the belief, that's the word, the belief that conditions need to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know? And of course, if it's an infant game and you can do fitness for 30 years or whatever, even 5 years, things that are inevitable that are going to come up are just things like bad moods, low energy, not being motivated for every workout, which is totally normal.
Yeah, it's like life throwing curveballs now and again and how you react and deal with them, I would say, as well. Yeah,
so short term, like, I just can't be bothered today.
Yeah.
But then maybe slightly bigger, longer term things like, this is an exceptionally stressful period in my work, or, we've had a few times in the gym where people have got a dog, a puppy.
Yes.
And like we've had a couple of people who left that never came back after that. Yeah. Other people who managed the situation, and kept going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how do you manage the puppy situation. That's a different podcast. We'll do another one on puppy training.
Well,
no, maybe not.
Maybe.
So yeah, bad moods are totally normal. I think that's probably in the demotivated, the motivation. That's one of my least favorite things with, I guess it's the highlight reel, is social media. It's everybody is always on it.
Every day is a good day.
Every day is a good day. You never see the struggles. You never see them. Will I train? Okay, I'm going to get up and train. Well, can't be bothered. You never see that. You just see the training. So you always assume that it's effortless.
It's easy. Yeah. People just get on with it and they don't have to think twice about it.
Like, in reality, you said last time, motivation comes after you start. And I know for me, like I've so many times when you're just like, you can hear the rain on the window. And you're like, no, I don't want to get, it's cozy. You just don't want to do it. But it's building the habit, whether or not, like, what's the alternative? Well, you don't do it.
Yeah. I think there probably are some outliers, some people who are generally upbeat and positive.
Pathologically happy.
Yeah.
is the term.
Most of the time, there probably are, but most human beings, we're not robots. And I think when we can accept that it's totally normal to have down days, to have, bad moods, times of stress, all the emotions are part of it.
Yeah. I think for me, like I've touched on this in the past, but I was that person that you've just explained. Happy, positive all the time, almost edging on annoying and, giving out
edging.
giving out self-help books to friends, that sort of thing. And I didn't have a bad day, or if I did, it was brushed under the carpet until I exploded.
Yeah, so you almost didn't accept that you had a bad day.
No, I couldn't accept it. I wasn't the sort of person that had a bad day.
It was part of who you were.
Yeah. And I feel that through like the years, and I'm going to touch on traveling again, that was a game changer for me, sitting with my own emotions and allowing myself to feel the negative thoughts and be okay with it and sit with it has made a massive difference to having more of a balance between the positive and the negative, and being motivated and not motivated, and how to balance that through life.
So what do you do when you sit with those thoughts? Do you have a process for it?
I think just allowing it.
Just letting it in.
Allowing myself to sit with it, be with it. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 10 minutes, it might be a whole day. But on the other side of that, I won't let it go any further than that. So I think I like to call it the pity well. You allow yourself to be in the pity well for a little bit of time, so you realise why you're feeling these emotions and sit with it. However, you don't want to be in there too long because you'll get stuck.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's a great book that made a difference for me. It's called The Happiness Trap. And so, like, excuse me, for years I was reading like the American self-help, positive.
Slight different culture to it.
Yeah, but there's almost like this idea that there's something wrong with you, or something wrong with your life if you're not happy all the time, or upbeat all the time, or motivated all the time. Because, as you said, Jase, social media world can portray that.
Yeah.
But then also some of these like self-help authors, can, if you're not jumping out of bed every morning, you're in the wrong job, or that sort of stuff. And The Happiness Trap was the first book that spoke to me about actually accepting all of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We're human beings, we're not robots.
Yeah.
And he made this great point of, it was kind of like what Lynsey was saying of, you can accept the feeling and you can be aware of the feeling, but you don't need to sort of become it, or attach it, or let it become you. You can almost view it from a distance a little bit.
I understand that.
Try and distance yourself from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than fight it,
Accept the emotion, or recognize the emotion. Accept it, understand it, and
and then I think it's a big part if you're talking about living a energized life, healthy and fit life over the long haul, and you can say, well, hold on, there's going to be days, probably lots of them, when I don't feel like X, Y, Z. I don't feel like doing my workout. I don't feel like eating this meal or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you can accept that up front, you can plan for it.
Yeah.
And I think what most people do, and there have been some studies around this, is they make their plans based on an ideal world. Not deliberately, just subconsciously, they make their plans. So I'm going to start my health kick, and I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I'm going to run every morning. But they forget, like you mentioned, Jase, well, what happens when that rain's pattering on the window, or you hear the wind howling, or whatever, or you come home and there's just, there's no food in the house, or the kids have done this or that, and so the smarter approach is to plan for the worst version of yourself.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. I think we've got a few tips and tricks to go for planning for that worst version. There's a few things I like to just bring up, and maybe we're gonna have a little chat about. Is another thing that throws people off track is just liking sweets and alcohol. Just liking a drink at the weekend. People will do that and then think that's them totally gone, which is the start-stop cycle again.
I think people, well, here's another one. I was reading a book last night, and the guy was talking about, he's a PhD, and he was talking about telling the story how he woke up and he was being sick and everything. It was a hangover. And there was a part in his head that was like, this is the last time that's going to happen. I'm smart enough to know better this time. But also,
how many times have we said that?
He knew at the same time that it wasn't really the case. And part of it is because, again, you're human. So the person who does the diet, or maybe they've had a big binge on food and they're so sick to death of overdoing it with chocolate or ice cream or something like that, and they decide, enough, I'm not eating this anymore.
In that moment, it's a good idea.
Yeah, but you're human, and so it's unrealistic. It's poor planning because
it's life.
It's in us as humans to crave sweet, fat, and salty foods, and you're going to be far more successful if you learn to plan and work alongside, these parts of yourself, rather than fight them for some one-sided fantasy. I think is what people go for, the all sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's only so long you can plan without needing to have a beer, really. Sometimes you just need that crisp golden deer on a nice summer's day. Which,
Bring it on.
Hopefully it's coming soon. The other thing I wanted to touch on was just life stress. Just think that must be a massive factor for people in time, for those who have kids. And I mean, at the time of recording, it's during COVID, so things like that's the first time we mentioned that.
I know.
Things like schooling children at home and still trying to work from home. I mean, it's got to be...
Plus fitting your exercise, plus trying to, eat well, spend time with the kids, just to juggle all that. And that even without, what's going on in the world right now, that's still such a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to take it on. No. Not right now.
But the question then is, so how do people do it?
Yeah, there's a lot of... I've got a lot of admiration for these people who've managed to do it so far, and maybe we can get one of them in to give us the tips for that. That would be a good idea. I want to go back to something you said, Mike, in terms of planning for your worst self. I know you've got an analogy. One of us has got an analogy every show, so I think it's your turn.
They're usually the ones I've stolen from other people. To be fair, I don't want to take all the credit. No, it was one that came from Seligman, Martin Seligman. He's the father of positive psychology, funnily enough. As
opposed to negative psychology.
Yeah, well, again, going back, that's psychology. A good equivalent, I guess, is if you think of like healthcare, it's not actually healthcare, it's sick care. Yeah. So typically people go to the doctor when they're not well, and psychology was like that because it was looking at all these like mental conditions and problems and things like that. And Seligman came along and was like, well, let's find out what helps people flourish and thrive. And
almost dissecting the successes rather than the failures.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what makes people happy, And anyway, so slight tangent there, but in his book Flourish, he had this great analogy about snipers. So I'm stealing it. And essentially, what he said was that snipers can take, I think he said like 24 hours to get into their position before they shoot. And even then, when they're in position, it can maybe take up to 36 hours for that right moment. So by the time the sniper pulls the trigger, he's gone maybe 2 days without food, without sleep. And so he's doing a highly, highly critical task in a totally depleted, sort of terrible state. And Seligman says, if you ask psychologists how they would train snipers, they would probably look for some sort of either psychological or what's the word I'm looking for? Like medical intervention. Yeah. So either like wake up drugs or techniques like you can snap a rubber band on your wrist, some sort of thing to help fight the fatigue and make them stay awake and feel alert. And what he says is that that's not actually how they're trained at all. What they do is they keep snipers up for 2 days and then they have them practice shooting while they're in that depleted state. So the idea is rather than fight the difficult state, they train for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great analogy in health and fitness. So rather than fight and, as we've said, try and be upbeat and positive and motivated 24/7, which is a fantasy.
Yeah.
Why not just accept that, geez, I'm gonna be down sometimes. I'm going to be demotivated sometimes. I'm going to have a lot on my plate sometimes because of work or whatever. So how do I live an energized life or do the basics of health and fitness in spite of this?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do the basics in spite of this?
I don't know.
No. Here's another analogy.
There's lots of things that people can do, and we spoke first of all last episode about viewing fitness as an infinite game, and all of a sudden there's a bit less pressure and a bit more time, and you don't need to take such drastic measures. One of them, as I said, I guess we could take the steps. First of all, accept that it's not going to be perfect conditions all the time. Sounds obvious, but most people don't. They just, we spoke about last, all right, in the next 6 weeks I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But it's not. And so plan for the worst version of yourself. And that could be like, okay, well, what they talk about in the research is these implementation intentions.
Ooh.
And we call them here if-then plans. So if I'm feeling really burned out, then I go for a walk or just do some stretching instead of my workout. Or if I get home and there's no food in the house, then I eat this backup meal instead, you know? So implementation intentions is one way. And the other one we talk about here is a WLWL. That stands for a when life works list, which is just looking at a time. Sorry?
Wibble.
Whoa.
Yeah, why don't we call it that? Wibble. But when life works list is essentially looking at a time when things were on track in your life, and what are the
Dissecting the successes.
Yeah, what are the 3 to 5 basic things that you do, really small things that help keep you on track? And people might find it's like, well, do you know what, I'm doing the food shop, I'm writing my shopping list, or I'm going to bed on time, or I'm getting fresh air every day, or whatever.
Yeah, you give us some examples of what would potentially be on the wibble.
Consistent sleep-wake routine, I would say. What else do I? Not having the phone, not being on my phone at bedtime. Typically, I don't put working out on it, because for me, I'm at the stage where that's just a part of who I am. It's ingrained. But getting out and walking, planning my day the night before is something I'm trying to work on as well.
Yeah.
But I think that the big picture of it, I used to be in a place where I would consistently, it might be every couple of months, it might be a longer time frame or shorter, but I would find myself in a slump. And after a few days of being in a slump, and it'd be alarming how quickly it would come on, but I'd be down in the dumps and I'd be like, I need to change something here. I'd be like, right, what am I going to do? And I'd always get pulled into some drastic approach, juicing or fasting or some crazy thing. And after a while of this, I began to just realize, I'm not doing my stuff. I'm not doing my basics. I'm not stretching or sleeping well, or and it was just like, rather than start some crazy scheme from Monday, it was like, well, actually from tomorrow, let's just make sure I go to my bed on time, switch off the phone.
Do the things that you keeps you.
Yeah. I would say just taking that into a sort of member's perspective, doing monthly reviews and working with members sort of through these things, I would say those are both of those tools, like if then plans and Wibble.
It's been adopted.
They are probably the 2 best tools that work for our members anyway, and probably the greater world. But it gives them something. It shows them that they don't have to do anything drastic. They can fall back on it, and just even saying, have you looked at your WLWL this month? If they're feeling a bit off track.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? No, I haven't. And instantly we'll maybe write down a few things, and already they've got something to go away with and feel better for within the next few days.
It's like a compass. The WLWL is a compass. So you stray from the path, and you're like, okay, there's my North Star, there's the way back. And it's so freeing, because it doesn't have all that stuff of, right, I'm starting over, here I go again, that we spoke about in the last episode. It's just like, okay, just do my stuff. Stray off track, return to the stuff. Stray off track, return to the stuff.
Yeah, it's almost instead of adding things to do, I'm going to do this now, I'm going to do this, you're actually taking away things. Right, I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to stay up late. I'm going to get to bed on time. So you're rather than adding more and more things for you to do and
get stressed about.
Creating this stress, you just take away all the unnecessary.
It's simplicity, isn't it? And everyone's WL might be different, and there might be things on there that are totally unrelated to fitness, but help set the tone for your day and what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Lynsey, have you got any of those WLWLs that set the tone for your day? That's not related to fitness?
For me, it's doing shopping on a Thursday, which keeps me from getting multiple takeaways over the weekend or feeling a little bit sluggish because I've got the food there, it's fresh, and I'm excited to cook. So doing it on a Thursday instead of maybe a Sunday is in my list of things to work with. And definitely bed on time, because we get up early, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah, crumble.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd say those two are the most important ones away from sort of the movement and exercise things.
I think
How about you, Jase?
Yeah, it's sort of similar. I always make sure I do a food shop. I was just about to say, I think it's fascinating that people do food shops on totally different days for different reasons. I do mine on a Friday afternoon because I've got that Friday feeling, and I go to the shop and I feel better when I'm in the shop. So I'm like, right, buying all the fresh veg, all the fresh fruit, all the good stuff, rather than going on, I don't know, Saturday afternoon where I've maybe had a low energy dip in the morning, and you go and you're a little bit hungry, you've not had lunch, and then you go shopping hungry.
Don't go shopping hungry.
You bought 7 bags of Haribos, a canoe, and all these random things that you think is going to make you feel better. But yeah, so definitely doing the food shop on a Friday, and like, I stretch every day. Like whether or not I do my entire body, or if I've just picked something that's particularly just. Oh, I said that right for a change. I normally jumble that word up. I was going to jumble it up. I'm not going to say it again.
No, don't say again.
Normally it might just be hips, for example, or ankles, or something that's feeling a little bit sticky, but just that movement every day on top of anything else, I always make sure I get that done. And I usually do it first thing in the morning. Like I'll get up my bed, do that, and then it's, get the coffee machine on, get organised, get ready to go. And it just helps really set. It's almost like the alarm clock. It just, right, that's it, sets you, you're off.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're talking if-then plans, if you can't be bothered stretching, then what?
I just do it later on. Like I don't have to do it at that point.
But
like,
you do it
yeah,
anyway?
Yeah, and it might not even be like a dedicated 5 minutes of stretching. I might be, say I'm driving somewhere, I might just lean my hand on the steering wheel and stretch my wrist. And I might just do that for both wrists for a couple of minutes or a song or something. And that's it. That's me done. I've done my little bit. I feel better. My arms are stretched. It might, if you're sitting at work, you might just tilt your head side to side, get a little stretch in the neck, back and forward, loosen off the shoulders a little bit.
And what do you think makes you continue to do it then? So you're following through, as we're saying. Important to reinforce this point. Like it's normal to not be arsed doing the thing.
Yeah.
So why? What do you think it is that makes you follow through anyway?
I guess at this point it's a little bit like brushing my teeth. Like you brush your teeth every day regardless.
I'd hope so.
Well, yeah, exactly. And some days when you brush your teeth though, you've got the water flosser out, you've got the mouthwash, you spend a solid 15 minutes on it, you've got your retainer in, everything's golden. And then other days you're just like, right, where's that electric toothbrush? 5 minutes, I'm done. And
5 minutes?
So it's just, no? So it's sometimes like, the stretching might just be super in depth. Or other times I've probably forgot about it all day and just be like, oh, walking up the stairs to go to bed, I'm like, oh, I'll just stretch my quick calves here then. Stretch. So it's just, I don't know if it's, I guess I've just built that consistency and habit over time now.
I think it's a good sort of segue into this idea of the different types of motivation, because especially when people first get into exercise, as we've said in previous shows, it's like the short-term outcome they're looking for, and they're usually doing it for some external reason.
Yeah.
Their holiday, their wedding,
Somebody's told them to.
Whatever it is, yeah, maybe. And with time, the I was going to say the magic. It's not magic, but the real results. I don't know, the
magic.
solution, the magic comes from when you do it more for internal reasons that matches your values. And a good example I like is emptying the bin in your house. So no one's motivated to do that, but no one even enjoys the process of it. I mean, can't speak for everybody, but it's not a desirable thing to do. Yet, if people value having a house that doesn't smell, they'll probably go and empty the bin.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that's what happens with fitness. We said before that it's an acquired taste, and it might take time to move up this sort of continuum of different types of motivation and different reasons why people do it. But eventually it comes to the point where, like you and your stretching, Jase, it's
just what you do.
It's just a part of who I am. And that's one example, speaking about not being motivated, I can think for years here at AKR, I'd be down here at 5:45 in the morning, opening the doors. We'd have sessions, through till maybe a little after 10 o'clock. All buzzing, all energy, everyone rock and roll, and then everyone leaves,
And
Yeah.
And you're left with me.
Empty building, already, done close to 10,000 steps on my feet coaching. And you're like, ooh, okay, breather, something to eat. But now it's like, I've got this window where I need to get my workout in or it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I would probably say most days it was very, very challenging to
I would
get it
agree
done.
with that. Yeah.
But it came down to, well, am I the sort of person that values this? And am I the sort of person that trains consistently, or am I not? And if I am, well, I've got to go get changed and get in the gym and get going.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a day when I'm truly burned out, maybe it is just show up, right, do you know what, I'll do my warm-up and then I'm done. Most cases, as people who have exercise know, once you get moving, you're totally fine. But it's giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
I think the person who thinks you need to be happy and positive all the time, as soon as they're not, then they're like, I can't do it today.
No.
Whereas if you realise that it's normal to be demotivated and it's okay to do a different version of what you planned, like, and if I'm totally burned out today, then do you know what, I'll do one set of each exercise with half the weight and I'll call it a day.
Yeah.
But guess what? I tick the box and I'm on. I'm onward.
9 times out of 10, once you do that first set, you get into it, and then you get moving, and it snowballs.
Yeah.
I've got the warm-up rule in my life. I say it's a rule, but like, I'll always do the warm-up, regardless how I feel. I'll go in, do the warm-up, and then I assess from there. And it might be a day where I'm totally burned out, and it might be a case of, right, you've done the warm-up, just move a little bit, and then leave. Or it could be a case of, right, let's put the foot down and let's go.
You ever regretted a workout?
I don't think I've ever regretted a workout, no. I don't think.
I don't think anybody has.
Exactly.
Almost threw me off with that question. Have I? Give me a minute.
That's the other thing that I've when you're in those moments when you're arguing with yourself, you're battling with yourself, you think, well, I've never regretted a workout, but if I don't, sooner or later I'll regret it. I might regret it today because have you ever had that where you wait
I wish
too
I just
long?
trained.
Oh yeah.
I should have just done it then.
Oh yeah, you always say that. Damn it, why did I do that?
But also, your decision today is a vote for the sort of person you want to be. So you skip it today, you're more likely to skip it the next day. Before you know it, a
6
longer
months.
period of time passed. Yeah.
It's. I think that's important I think a good thing to interject here with is small steps and wins. I think recognising, okay, I've turned up and I've done the warm-up. That's a massive win.
Yeah.
And recognising these small steps and these wins, they're going to make you feel better. And it's going to help you keep moving forward with what it is that you want.
Yeah, I think a great approach for people is to tick a box. So
But actually...
Literally.
tick a box. It could be on your phone, it could be on a calendar, a diary, bit of paper, special journal, whatever.
There's loads of apps that allow that.
Yeah.
But when you tick a box, it's not like I'm going to do a 1 hour workout every day. It's I'm going to do, like your example, Jase, a warm up, or so your barrier to entry is so small that if you do the smallest thing, you get to tick the box.
Just put the kit on.
Yeah, and exactly. If I put my gym kit on every day, I can tick the box.
Yes.
But because the thing is, it's that first start that's the hardest bit, and once your gym kit's on. God, I've got it on now.
Yeah,
so I'll do 5 minutes.
Exactly.
I'll do a set of squats or something.
I'm not taking it off again now. What's the point of that?
Yeah, just get sweaty.
Yeah, I've seen me deciding if I'm going to go for a run or something.
Whilst putting your shoes on.
And I get into this moment of like, will I go for it? Will I go for it? And I capitalise that, and I quickly get changed.
My zone on.
Because it's the point of no return. I'm like, damn it, now I've got to do something,
Yeah.
Hey, you said my zone there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use that a little bit. That's quite good for keeping consistency.
Yeah, consistency. Even
tell the listener about my zone then, because not everyone will know what it is.
it's a heart rate monitor that we use here. Basically, it gamifies fitness a little bit, and it keeps us on track consistently, I would say. So what I'm going to...
Sorry, start again.
So what I'm saying about my zone is that even if you're feeling burnt out or a little bit tired, they work on my zone effort points. So even if you put it on and you do a little workout, you'll get these points basically, and they accumulate over the month. And if by the end of the month you get 1,300, my zone effort points, then you've ticked the box and you get a status. So that's why I was saying it gamifies fitness a little bit, and it keeps, well, it's certainly kept me on track for almost 3 years, I think, that I'm almost at the stage of being in the Hall of Fame. Ooh. But I think just having that piece of kit has kept me consistent in many of our members as well.
Yeah. I think, Mike, you're the same with the MyZone. You're very consistent on MyZone.
Yeah.
I thought you were just going to stop there. Yes.
Yes, I am, Jason. Yes, I am. I think it's a great thing, because once you've had it for like years, and it's a great example that I can show to members, because the 1,300 effort points, they're called MEPs for short, but the 1,300 MEPs is a minimum team for each month.
It's a government.
It's based on the World Health Organization guidelines for physical activity. So it's pretty achievable for most people to reach that number. Now, you can set another goal, which is far beyond it. And sometimes at AKR, we might have like, right, this month, let's all try and set a personal best in how many MEPs we can get. But what I like is you get a little graph, and I can show people, look, here's me absolutely, getting after it, and, a few months really on top of things. But actually, here's a few months, well, I wasn't well that month, or, last year, with all that was going on, I had a few months where I was really burned out. But I was like, but I did the minimum, and I stayed on track.
Yeah.
And I think it's again another example of saying, well, look, it's normal. It's normal to have down days and things like that. Let's plan for them. What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest thing is like we spoke about last time, talking about the stop-start stuff, but it's the things that people see as character flaws. I'm just not disciplined enough. I can't stick to anything. I'm not motivated. I get bored of this easily. Yeah. Like those things that we see as character flaws are actually just normal human traits.
Yeah, they're totally normal. Yeah, it's just learning to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And moving on from them.
Yeah, so you don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to be super motivated. You don't need to be happy and positive all the time.
No, well,
you're a human.
Those good days take care of themselves.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the crazy thing. So we plan. When we make our plans, we're motivated, right?
Yeah.
By default, I'm motivated, so I'm going to make a plan to do this. And so we make a plan for the good days, when actually the good days are the days, like you said, that take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. So the smart approach is say, okay, I'm motivated right now, but I'm not always going to be. Or I know it around the April time is a busy time at work, or teachers, the end of term, or I'm always burned out at the end of term. Or so let's make a plan, or Christmas can be a crazy period. Let's make a plan for the worst version of you, either in the calendar or just day-to-day emergencies. Like, okay, I'm in a foul mood and I really can't be bothered. What's in my toolkit? What can I pull out of this to help me
stay on track
or limit the amount of damage I do to myself today?
Damage limitation.
That's the aim of the game, to live an energized life, is just stringing together, just staying on track, not avoiding, but being cautious of the days where everything's extreme and all go, and trying to avoid the days where you're just digging a bigger hole for yourself.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. I think I want to challenge the listener and the viewers just to take 5 minutes or possibly longer, but just to write down your when life works list. Think of the times that you've been, having those really great days. Think of the basics that contribute to those days. You got good sleep. You're prepped in your meals or whatever it might be. You did some training. You did your food shop. Whatever it might be. Just write them down, and if you want to send it to us, feel free. We'd love to hear from you. I think we'll wrap it up there. I think this has been a really useful pod. I'm getting into the slang of this podcast stuff now. Where do we go from here? What's happening next?
Next episode, well, I guess this first 4 have been a bit of an introduction to us and philosophically how we're different at AKR.
Yeah.
The next couple, we're going to turn to a bit more action steps. So let's say someone's taken on board the infinite game of fitness, and they want to move forward and get into it. So we're going to talk about how to get started with exercise, and then the next one will be about trying to make nutrition a little simpler for people.
Fine. And that's it, folks. Thank you so much for listening. If you could give us a review, that'd be great. A like, a share on all socials is also very welcome. Thank you very much, folks. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.